Hello again, everybody. It's been a long time since I did a solo Beatles album review. I had a series once upon a time where I did all kinds of solo album reviews, and I've been promising I'm going to get back to them, so I will do that. But the reason I'm doing this one today is because last night I took a long drive, about an hour, and while I was driving, my CD of choice was this, Flowers in the Dirt. This is from an import from 1993, I believe, and it has bonus tracks on it. There's a whole series of these with Paul's albums with bonus tracks on them. And I said, this is going to be the record of choice. Now, let me tell you something about Flowers in the Dirt here. Okay, and for this one, I'm showing the Archives LP edition. This was released June 5th of 1989. It was a comeback album of sorts for Paul. Now, some people agree, some people don't agree. I happen to think it's a comeback album because Paul was having some problems, In 1982, he was doing real well with the great album Tug of War. Then in 1983, he put out Pipes of Peace, which to me was like Tug of War leftovers. It was really kind of unbalanced. But it did have Say, 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 the big hit. McCartney's last number one here in the States single. And Say, Say, Say was a big triumph with Michael Jackson. But then after that, he did Give My Regards to Broad Street, the movie that flopped. Even though No More Lonely Nights was a great single off there, and even though songs like Not Such a Bad Boy and No Values were two good rockers, Paul was kind of like diving down a little bit. In 1985, he put out Spies Like Us, a rocker which I really love, but which doesn't really get a lot of praise. In 1986 came Press to Play, in my opinion, one of his least albums of all time. And some people are now finding a real appreciation for it. Some people really like Press to Play. I think, like most, it was a step down. And then in around 87 and 88, he wound up in 88, I think, putting out the Russian album, which was an album of oldies. And I didn't really like the way Paul performed it. The songs, I should say, from the Russian album. He was really, in my opinion, from say 1984 till he got to 1989, in a downward spiral. Now, there were some people in the Beatles community totally disagree with that, but I think McCartney had to reinvent himself. He had to find a new way. This album, Flowers in the Dirt, that I'm talking about today, was for the most part what I call a step in the right direction. This was a McCartney coming back and doing what he does best. However, in my opinion, you may be surprised to learn that this is not an album I like. I didn't love this album in 1989, even though I could tell Paul was kind of back. He was doing his thing, and he was sounding good, and he was writing good. For this album, he kind of worked with a John Lennon vibe, because he joined forces with Elvis Costello, actual name Declan McManus. And Elvis Costello is somebody that I've never really loved, to tell you the truth. I love that song Pump It Up and maybe Veronica, but I'm not really an Elvis Costello nut. So therefore, although Paul found some kind of similarities between the style of Elvis Costello and John Lennon, his now departed friend from so many years, he enjoyed working with him, but I really didn't find him to be adding much. I know my opinion is a dissenting opinion. It's a rare opinion. Most people like Elvis Costello. They enjoy his music and his albums. I didn't get much out of it. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on here. So when I say Paul was back, again, I call this a comeback album, but I say, for me, it was only a step in the right direction. I'm one of the rare people who thinks the follow-up album that came out in 1993, Off the Ground, is generally better than this. The problem I have with this album, although there are, I'm looking now at my notes, say 6 tracks out of 12, half the album. I like 6 tracks on here. The other 6 tracks I don't care for, and I'm going to talk about them. And this is all My opinion. Too many of the songs on here lapse into a really slow, yawn-worthy feel. I call this affectionately "Flowers in the Dirge." So we're going to talk about it. All right. This had like 30, 30 musicians here on different tracks while I was looking up some information. So I'm not going to name all the musicians that played, somebody that played a horn here or a keyboard there. I'm going to talk about the main people. We have Linda McCartney on Mini Moog or Mini Moog. Some people say Moog, some people say Moog. Okay, we'll say Mini Moog. And backing vocals, of course, Robbie McIntosh, electric and acoustic guitars. Hamish Stewart, electric and acoustic guitar, and also bass and percussion. Then we had Chris Whitten playing drums and percussion. Paul Wicks playing keyboards. And Elvis Costello, of course, is on some tracks. Now, the first single that was released from Flowers in the Dirt in 1989 was My Brave Face. My Brave Face. And you could tell at the time, too, especially just by hearing it, Paul was returning. He was back to form. The video on this, I remember seeing the video playing all the time, where it's kind of Beatles inspired. It has some Beatles references to it, and I think Paul was trying to reach into that to get a little bit more attention to the video. I do think the video was very good, and the song is okay. My Brave Face, to me, is one of the tracks I like on here, but kind of like with reservations. I don't love My Brave Face. This is the first song on the album written both by McCartney and Elvis Costello together. I think I liked hearing some demos. That's a theme you're going to encounter here a lot as I keep talking. I think the demos in some ways are better or more interesting than what they actually recorded on the album. My Brave Face, I think the problem I have with it is I really don't love the chorus. I think it kind of is clunky. It's kind of like it's not a good melody, where I can find my brave face, da 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 da. I don't really love that, but the rest of it, the way it starts, I've been living in style, etc., and things like that. That part I like better than the middle part. All right, so it's okay. Then we go to Rough Ride, which is, I'll call it a funky track. I enjoy Rough Ride. That's McCartney alone written. I don't know, just sounds funky. It's got a real groove to it. And this is a song that I enjoyed when he did it live. That's another thing I meant to say, so I'm glad I thought of it. McCartney started touring in 1989. This was the album he toured with. He hadn't toured since really 1976-ish. I know he played in 1979, and did some gigs in England and stuff. But as far as, doing the big, let's do a big, huge world tour type of deal, he hadn't really done it for like approximately 13 years. So this was a chance for Paul to get back out there with a decent album, which I think this album was pretty well received overall, despite what I'm saying. And I know some fans that think this is one of his best albums, period. They list it near the top. So he was actually going to be back on the road again. And this was the first time I got a chance to see Paul. Got to see him tour at Madison Square Garden, a concert in 1989. Saw him again in 1990. So he was backing this album up. So let's go to track number 3, You Want Her Too, which is a McCartney-Elvis Costello collaboration. What I like about the song is the trade-off vocals. I like hearing Elvis Costello and singing along with Paul. They did a lot of that in the demos, not as much, I don't think, on the album. But this one, I like that. But, I don't consider You Want Her Too a very good song. It's okay. Again, I'm not putting You Want Her Too as one of my favorite tracks off the album. So far, the first two I liked. This one, I do like the trade-off vocals. Then we go to typical McCartney fluff for track number 4, which is Distractions. The birds, you could hear the little birds tweeting and the butterflies buzzing around his head. It's hard to dislike the song, and I don't hate it. It is a pretty little song. It's like you're out there on a spring day just laying down on the grass and listening to all the little twinkling going on. It's so soft and corny in a way, but that's what Paul does best at times, you know. Sometimes it's got great result, sometimes not so great result. Distractions, yeah, it's not awful, but it's not a favorite. It's not a track that I'm going to say I really enjoy off the album. Now, track number 5 is interesting. Track number 5 is a song called We Got Married, written solely by Paul. And We Got Married, when this album first came out, I really didn't like the song. As I say, it was kind of uh, starts out a little bit like dirgy. But, you know, over the years, I've kind of come to really like We Got Married. So now it's one of my favorite songs on the album. It took some time and multiple plays. I remember when I went to see Paul in concert in 1989, We Got Married was the song when he started doing it. Of course, it was a new song. People started leaving their seats to go to the restrooms. This is where they relieve themselves, you know. And it's a shame because when you come to really, really get into the song, it is a very good song. And it has different kinds of moods and it goes in different directions. It elevates itself at different times. And Paul's voice, too, has many changes in the way he does it. Kind of laid back at first, but then getting into the really intense, more screeching kind of almost vocal. Now, a highlight of this song is the guitar work by David Gilmour. David Gilmour is friendly with Paul. They're buddies, and he's helped Paul so much. First thing that comes to mind is Gilmour's guitar on No More Lonely Nights, which was sensational. So I'm so happy to say that We Got Married I like. Now, I think maybe the best song on the album closes side 1. It's so short that you wish it was a little longer, but it is Paul at his best. It's a song called Put It There. Put It There is something that his father used to say, kind of bonding father and son. When he would want to shake his son's hand, he'd say, put it there if it weighs a ton. And that's something that Dad used to say. It's a song about father and son coming together and being best buds. And I really love it. It's such a beautiful song, and it's also I like the lyrics in it as well. Now this is a song that George Martin also helped out on. George Martin came in and he did his famous classy orchestration with this, which really elevated the song even more. I think it would have been even just as good if it didn't have that, but it really helps with the George Martin touch perfectly. Put It There. I'm going to say the best song on the album for me, or if not the best, maybe one of two. There's another one that I think is one of the best on it. We'll get to that as we flip the album over to side 2. Flip side 2, and we get a Figure of 8, a modest rocker, you know, not a big balls to the wall rocker. Bizarrely, I don't know why Paul decided to start his 1989 tour leading off with that song. It's okay. It's a decent rocker. I'm going to call it one of the songs I do like on here. It's just written by Paul. And yeah, what can I say about it? Different versions of this, he gets a little more into it with his singing, a little more rocking at points. Figure of 8 is an interesting start to side 2. Like I said, it's not a real fast, heavy metal type of rocker, modest rocker. Okay, the second song on side 2 is the other great song on the album, McCartney classic. It's called This One. This one is a song about how to take advantage of the time. We don't always look into the eyes of the ones that we love and say are significant others, and don't really give a touch on the cheek or really pay attention. It's kind of, you take for granted this kind of situation, and you want to try to remember in the moment, because there could never be a better moment than this one to say thank you for the smile, touch your hand or cheek, and really tell the person how much they mean to you. It's a good song, and I think this one should have been the first single. I believe it was the second single. This one was so good, such a great McCartney pop song. It should have been the first single. I think it would have done better than My Brave Face, which Again, I'm only thinking of the United States here. Didn't do so good. Uh, my brave face, as it could have gotten, should have gotten higher, didn't. Okay, but this one is fantastic. I used to think this one far and away was my number one track, but I'm kind of waffling on that. This one and Put It There, easily the two best tracks on the album. All right, then we go to 3, the worst song on the album. It's another McCartney and Elvis Costello, aka Declan McManus, collaboration. Don't Be Careless Love. I mean, I think the demo, some of these songs really shine more on the demos that the two did. I think Don't Be Careless Love is just a really monotonous, annoying song. It's the weakest point on the album, possibly, but there's more to come. This is track number 3 on side 2, and the problem is the resulting effect is that they're all kind of dirgy and low energy. I don't like the last 4 songs here, beginning with Don't Be Careless Love. Then we go to the dirge of them all, That Day Is Done. It sounds like you're walking home from church after a ceremony. Another Elvis Costello collaboration. I think That Day Is Done again is better on the demo. So it's worth hearing the extra tracks for this, because the demos in some cases, like I say, are better and more interesting. Well done. But That Day Is Done, it's just too dirgy to me. It's just too, like, yawn inducing. Then we have How Many People, which kind of like is a little more energy, but not much. It's not too bad. I wouldn't call How Many People a song that is a favorite on here. I don't include it in my 6 favorites. I don't know what it's got. It's got a kind of I don't know. I didn't really think about it much. I don't know if I'd say slightly Jamaican, maybe flavor, very slight. I mean, I don't even know if you'd agree with that, but it's got a interesting feel that makes it not too bad. But I'm trying to give a little bit of credit here when I can, because I don't like the track. The final track is, I don't know if it's worse, actually. I call Don't Be Careless Love the worst track on the album. The closing track on the album, Motor of Love, a McCartney, I don't know what to call it, McCartney Lemon. It is really poor, okay? You want to talk about the most boring, endless kind of repetition over and over again. Motor of love, Heavenly Father, look down from above. If I remember the words now properly. It just goes on and on and on. A song, there's many songs I like, can go on and on and on and on. I like songs, some of them like that. Some of them I detest. This is one that I detest. It's really in the running. Motor of Love is in the running with Don't Be Careless Love as the 2 worst tracks on this album. So the only songs I really like on here, 6 songs: My Brave Face, Rough Ride, We Got Married, Put It There, Figure of 8, and this one. And that leaves side 2 with the first 2 tracks I like, and then 4 dogs, with sometimes able to take How Many People a little bit. Now, the thing that's interesting about this particular time, and even earlier than this time, in the few years ahead, there were some better songs. And on this particular CD that I listened to in the car, I'm going to talk about a song that I really love, that I wish was on this album. It was done in 1987, 2 years before this album. That's Back on My Feet. Back on My Feet starts out nice and leisurely paced, and then it goes to a heavy guitar chorus part with Paul really rocking out, and then back again to the more laid back part, and then rocking with the guitar in the middle. This is probably, in my opinion, the best pairing, the best team up of Elvis Costello with Paul McCartney. They both worked on that song together. And Back on My Feet should have been on this album. I realize it was a couple of years old. That doesn't matter. It's done all the time. Say you put Back on My Feet on this album instead of Don't Be Careless Love. Oh, triumph. And then other tracks here, Flying to My Home, which was included as a B-side of My Brave Face. I think Flying to My Home is really fun, and McCartney's voice does some really, really bizarre things in it. His voice is really different. Flying to My Home is a fun track, relegated to a B-side. I wish you would have put Flying to My Home in place of That Day Is Done. I think taking it Back on My Feet and Flying to My Home, putting it on the proper album, and getting rid of a couple of others, I think would have made a world of difference. There are other tracks on here, So Like Candy. These are all tracks you have to really look for. I'm holding the Archives album. We have it on here. So Like Candy, Tommy's Coming Home. Let's see, Playboy to a Man. I don't love these songs. I don't love them. I don't love Tommy's Coming Home. I don't love Playboy to a Man. I don't love So Like Candy, and I don't love 20 Fine Fingers. These are other tracks, other names that could have been put on here, but I still think they're not as awful as the four that they went with at the end of the record proper. So I think I would have taken some of these other tracks in place. Another track I'll talk of, which is common, is Où est le soleil, okay, which is 12-inch single that came out. It was a bonus track on here as well. It's kind of trippy. It's a trippy track with Paul just basically repeating that French phrase over and over and over. But I find it more interesting than some of the stuff that made the proper record. And another one that I think sucks is a funky track called Party Party, which is, an extra track you can get from this. I'm just mentioning it for the heck of it. I think it's pretty lousy. I like weird stuff. I like the song My Carnival from, the Wings era, which I think is a really terrific, wacky song. Let's just have a good time. I like My Carnival, don't like Party Party. Anyway, so that's it. 6 songs out of 12 here. It's funny. Before I listened to this again yesterday, I was thinking this album is kind of mid-tier. It's in the middle for me of Paul's albums. I think it's lower tier now. It's fallen down. And I have to be honest with these reviews, and that's what I do, and that's what I know a lot of you like. I will praise something, which I've done many times for Paul when I like it. I'll defend Back to the Egg forever. Great, underrated album. This one, overrated by many, many people, though it was a step in the right direction for Paul. Thanks, everybody.